butted mess.
A hot butted mess. Reminds me of the rolls at Texas Roadhouse. But listen, let's go on a break. Let's take a break from this because I am just about to boil over here. So when we get back, we're going to get back into this and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the overall state of education in America leading up to this college admissions process. So stay tuned. We'll be back.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. We'll be right back.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn?
Is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
The path to happiness is not the easy one, but taking drugs will not make it easier. Many people got lost and end up losing their life to drugs. If you or anyone that you know is within that path, don't be afraid to seek for help. Visit www.adk.gov.my for information related to drug abuse. So, know your path. This message is brought to you by the National Anti-Drugs Agency.
Where I wanted to quit, in the back of my mind, I told myself I have to quit. And just that day when I reached for that cigarette, I'll never forget it, with my son looking at me. And it was like a bolt of lightning hit me where I finally realized the big picture of what year after year and cigarette after cigarette had done. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I quit. Took him a whole pack, brand new pack. Took him, threw him out the window, and I don't litter. But that's it. I'm done. I quit. No, it's going to kill me. It's going to be cancer. But I don't have to make it sooner than it needs to be. He was shocked, and he says, I really hope you mean that,
Mom. You're listening to Straight No Chaser. So let's get back to your girl MBZ, Pastor C, Thin Bad, and the Chief.
Hey, good people. Welcome back. If you just joined us, we're talking about education. We were talking about the celebrity scandal going on in higher education, the admission scandal before the break, and all of the foolishness that's going on with folks paying exorbitant, crazy price is paying more than it costs to go to school for 4 years just to get in to the school. But turning a little closer to home in each of our areas, the public school districts have a lot of challenges, and every year test scores come out and the rankings get published, and the results are about the same usually. Some jurisdictions see some improvements, slight, but they see some, and by and large, though, the urban districts usually are performing below the districts in suburbia. And even if the numbers do increase, the performance gap always seems to remain. So as it is, though, with any data source that you have to look behind the statistics, actually, because there are a whole lot of other factors that impact the numbers, such as the socioeconomic system, what's going on socioeconomically. Try to
use your words.
Yeah, I use them all. I try to run them all in at the same time. But class size makes a difference. Spending amounts per pupil, makes a huge difference. But, all of that stuff factors in. But we can't ignore this trend in the communities across America. We've got to be honest. And we've got to be unrelenting and perhaps even unconventional sometimes in developing effective strategies to kind of change this trend. Somebody wiser than me once said, if you want to keep getting what you're getting, keep doing what you're doing. And
right.
If you aren't doing anything, that's bad English, but that's good theology, right? But a decent education is like the baseline. Right, that's the baseline for somebody who wants to be catapulted into the future and become a productive citizen and have a decent career. And the odds of getting caught up in something less than productive increase exponentially for those who don't successfully complete school.
That's right.
So, and sometimes you have, having worked in higher education, you find a lot of times that students have been prepared and are top A students in their school systems, and they're so used to being at the top and not used to failing. But then when they go into higher education and they're competing with all of these other kids from all of, some from suburbia, some from other cities, some from cities who have a lot more resources than where they came from, they find themselves floundering at the bottom of the barrel. And it's really a something for them to have to overcome because they're so used to being on top in their respective area that when they come out here, they realize that they're not really ready, even though some of them are A students. Some of them have taken some AP classes and all of this kind of stuff. They find themselves at a loss. But, the odds are also stacked against students who actually do have some grades and they do have the desire and ambition. And that's what we were talking about, in the last segment. You got students who do have all of this stuff. They really want to go to school. They really want to be successful. And, they go through the grueling paces, all these tests and admissions processes. But then you have these folks that just kind of flaunt their influence and their power and throw their money around and, and doing all this kind of mess. So, I want to talk about, Chief Ambezi, what do you think about this playing field? Because it's so unlevel. It's not something that's new. It's been unlevel for a while. As I said, there's a whole lot of things that factor into it. You've got, cities, people, you've got flight from the cities. You've got people leaving. You've got neighborhoods that are, desolate in some places. So these are all numbers. The tax bases the tax base is dwindling in some cases.
Right.
How does all of this play out? What do you see? How do you see this playing out?
Well, here's the thing. I think I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about the different tax brackets. Because one of the reasons why the playing field is not even is because a lot of schools, especially public schools, are funded based upon the money that is being given in taxes in those prospective communities. So therefore, when you have a low income area, you basically have a low income school. And so it's almost like if you lived in a low income area and somebody lived in Beverly Hills, and you guys are expected to get the same things done. It's not going to happen. Well, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but if it does happen, it's going to happen differently. You don't have the same access to resources. You don't have the same idea of how to get things done. Like, things are just naturally going to be different. So I really think that the only way that you can really even the playing field is if somehow these school districts who are not getting the same funding can somehow be given the same funding. Now, I don't know where that would come from or how that would be done. That's more your area than bad, because you're involved in all of that. But I really think that it really comes down to money. As always, it always comes down to money. But also, if they don't have the same resources and supplies, it's kind of like the chief said earlier. You can nitpick about little things, even down to people not knowing the strategy to take the SATs. Now, whether if you're in a rich neighborhood or a poor neighborhood, both places have had the same incidences when people take their standardized test scores and they don't know how to approach it. When I was in school and the SAT, ACTs came around, they had additional opportunities outside of school to learn the SATs and the ACTs and strategies and all that stuff. But other than like practice tests, we didn't really do that in my school. And like I said, I went to a really great school. So that kind of education is free. You can easily teach your kids, teach your students SAT strategies without having to pay outrageous money. There's information about that online. There's plenty of places where you can go. So I really think it comes down to what are the things that you can give to your students that will help them get ahead that you don't have to pay for, because knowledge is free. Knowledge is free. Now, the materials may not be free, but at the end of the day, knowledge is free. So even if you're at a low-income school and everybody doesn't have the same textbook as you as a teacher can get the material and teach it to your kids for free. That's how I look at it. So it's like, if you know that you're in one of these schools that can't compete with one of the more elite schools for whatever reason, it really takes for you to sit down and figure out, okay, we're lacking this, this, and this. What can we do to make up for it and make sure that these kids are at the same level as the national level, at least? And for people who aren't having that issue, like, for example, Clark County School District, right? I just did a segment last week on the 702 Wake Up Crew about how even though Vegas is supposed to be getting all this money towards education from legalizing marijuana, either we're not seeing the money or we have the money and we're using it poorly. So that's another thing. It's like, if your police, for example, just not to get off topic, but you'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. If your local police force did something outrageous, like shot somebody who was unarmed, or they just started wilding for no reason, there would be people out in the streets protesting. Like, what's going on? What can we do to change? We need more training within the department. This is crazy. I mean, that's how the Black Lives Matter movement came about. People understand when their kids are not meeting certain standards. So why is the community not rallying together to try to support their institutions like they support everything else?
Well, that's one of the things that we used to always talk about with in law enforcement. We used to encourage community participation, and the same energy needs to go into getting the community. And you notice I say the community because, as we all know, all children don't come from equal situations. There might not be a parent in the house. It might be a relative raising that child. That child may be raising themselves. We just don't know. But the community does have a tremendous opportunity to get involved with these schools. For example, even, on the East Coast, when we live there and out here, there seems to be that same formula for disaster. And that is, when you look up at PTA, you've got 500 kids in the school, yet there's 20 parents showing up for PTA.